What does it mean that the Goth subculture expresses its ideals through aesthetics? Welcome, kobolds. First of all, let me say that this video is thought for someone I care about a lot, which means the person who saved my life when I experienced extreme trauma. Extreme trauma because I cannot say specifically what it was. And so, why am I talking to this person about this specific topic? Because I want to show them why I picked the goth subculture and that it's not a matter of wanting to look depressed. First of all, being goth means having a deep exponential love for in-depth analysis and research, which isn't very neurotypical. If you think about it, very few neurotypical people have this specific love for things. And that's a very neurodivergent thing to like and to enjoy. And that's why we used to say in the early 2000s, we used to believe that most Goths were neurodivergent. What concerns me, first of all, let me say that I highly respect those who went through the diagnosis experience because it must have been a nightmare. And I do not want to claim for myself something that they experienced and that was probably highly traumatic for them to experience. But thanks to them going through that complicated path and talking about the topic, I could figure out and suspect that I might be autistic level 1. So if you believe in self-diagnosis, I'm a self-diagnosed autistic level 1. If you don't believe in self-diagnosis, you can consider me suspecting being autistic. I'm not claiming anything because, like I said, I respect these people too much. And I have to thank them for helping me understand things about myself. So, closing this parenthesis, I have a diagnosis of giftedness. That's another thing. So I am, anyway, neurodivergent. Because of my second diagnosis, and if you believe me, even for the first one, for the self-diagnosis. So, moving on. Yes, a lot of people are neurodivergent in the goth subculture. Many people are neurodivergent in the goth subculture. And that's exactly because in order to figure out if you fit in a subculture, you have to go in depth about so many things that a lot of people give up before figuring out. A subculture embraces a huge spectrum of things, basically every aspect of life, and you have to figure out what is close to the original culture and what is different than the original culture. How does the goth subculture express its ideals? We know, and it's highly debated, that most of the goth ideals are political ideals. Now let's make a difference here. Political ideal doesn't mean that the person expressing it has a political adherence to any political party. Yes, it might be true that some parties in a specific group express that political belief more, but the core of the goth subculture is that goths do not believe that politics can help people in any way because politics is far behind where people are standing right now. And mostly politics is blind to what people actually experience. So, this is a core belief of goths, which is why we go through art instead of screaming our beliefs to the public. We internalize things, we introspect, and our aesthetics expresses who we truly are and what we believe. But how can a music thingy express any political anything without saying so? Let me show you with Dark Cabaret. I love dark cabaret, by the way. I was introduced to dark cabaret by butt cavers. I met two butt cavers that made the basis of what I know about goth. And I am looking down because I have some papers to read you. So I wrote some things. And so, yeah, I'm happy to make this video. Moving on. So, dark cabaret. Now we're going into it and you're going to start seeing it. First of all, start thinking about the Dresden Dolls, who are the most known of this kind of expression. Even though I consider them too clean and too mainstream, they are goth, and I like them a lot. But yeah, they're very, very clean. Sorry, Amanda. And so let's go into it. Where does dark cabaret come from? Dark cabaret picks from Brechtian cabaret, from the Weimar Republic, meaning in the 1930s. It takes from vaudeville, and it takes from burlesque. So everyone knows what burlesque is, and it doesn't need any explanation. Let's talk about the other two things. What is vaudeville? Okay, let's read it. No, first I need to explain it. Vaudeville is a cabaret experience that is close to what happened in Victorian Britain, which was called music hall, if I recall correctly. And its acts included, sorry, I need to wear glasses. Yeah, so its acts included popular and classical musicians, singers, dancers, comedians, trained animals, magicians, ventriloquists, strongmen, female and male impersonators, acrobats, clowns, mimes, jugglers, and athletes. Where does all this stuff lead you? What does it make you think of? Yeah, you name it. Say it. It's freak shows. Sorry, I was thinking Cirque du Freak. But yeah, basically that's Cirque du Freak stuff. And what does freak shows make us think of, if not minorities, people who are different from others, that are judged from society, which is one of the core topics in the Goth subculture. Then let's talk about influences. The Weimar cabaret is actually Brechtian cabaret, and it was through the Weimar Republic. The Weimar Republic was the first republican experience in Europe after the Roman Empire, which means it was the first real time in Europe when a political expression, or an institutional actually expression, was meant to give a voice to people. Oh, by the way, vaudeville is debated to mean voix de ville, meaning the voice of people. It's not clear if that's the real meaning of the term, but it's one of the possibilities. So back to Weimar, we're talking about a specific time after the fall of the absolutistic empire, between the 1918 and the 1930s, when it was turned into the Reich we all know. Before then, it was a republic that thought for people. And so this leads us to another side of the Goth subculture, which is the concern for workers and the lower castes of society. And we're talking about cabaret. So, let's see the evolution that led to dark cabaret. Bertolt Brecht influenced 1960s rock bands like The Doors. And dark cabaret began to emerge in the 1970s following the influences of this kind of music, like The Doors and their relatives, with the Human Menagerie. Then during the 1980s, the genre was adopted by post-punk groups like Mark Almond and the Virgin Prunes. Now we come to my favorite part, which is that these different genres that we just talked about that take from vaudeville, burlesque, and Weimar cabaret were largely codified through the 90s, were largely codified through the work of the Tiger Lilies and Ross Williams and Gitane Demon, Dream Home Heartache. I don't know that singer well, I admit it, but I know the Tiger Lilies very well. And if you want me to suggest you something, go through YouTube, look for their gigs, and you're gonna laugh like crazy while thinking deeply about what they're actually doing. It's like looking at a street theater from the Elizabethan era, around those ages, Regency. Think of the movies and when they show you street theaters thought for people. It's vulgar, it's cheeky, it's rude, it's rough, and it's definitely not clean. And that's where dark cabaret takes from. Obviously, after the 19s and through the experience of the Tiger Lilies and Gitane Demon, or however she's pronounced, there was new bands like, for example, the Dresden Dolls, who, again, look very clean. This kind of music does not talk about politics. If you look into 1,000 Violins by the Tiger Lilies, so this song talks about how do we ever face 1,000 violins? And how do we ever even start to begin? And it talks about the feeling of being isolated in a world that starts being highly connected. The song was written in 2000, and it was issued in 2000. And that was a very difficult time when we were talking about globalization at its very beginning. So yes, there is a very clear photography of the political scene, but it's not expressed through political expressions. That's how the Goth culture delivers their beliefs. If you watch a video by the Tiger Lilies, you can look into 1,000 Violins or many other gigs. You will see how dark cabaret, for example, or any other expression in the gossip culture delivers what is inside the author of that specific song. I could mention The Cure, who are very leaning a lot towards the hippie counterculture. They are hermetic. Robert Smith is a very hermetic poet, and his songs are very deep, and you experience them through a connection with the emotion he's expressing. So yes, it's a very theatrical, introspective, and researchable experience. Being a goth means learning how to read what is not said. So this is basically what I found attractive about the goth subculture at the very beginning, and what led me to label myself as goth through time. This is all for today. I hope it helped in some way. I'll see you soon.